Where is all of this going? I think we need some perspective.
1, 2, 3, jump!
Hello my friends! My name is Pascal Heinzemann, this is my trusty sidekick stock footage dog, and I welcome you to my third episode of my Let's Draw series! Today we want to start drawing with perspective. Not only do I mean to create the illusion of a third dimension on a two-dimensional flat paper, no, it's also about drawing with perspective. What I mean by this is when you start drawing, you need to have a purpose, a vision, some sort of story, or at least some vague idea of what you want to do. Yeah, it's kind of evolving, okay? But first, let's do some exercises. So people always ask me, Pascal, what should I do to learn perspective when I'm a complete beginner, or when I'm kind of advanced but I want to get better at it, or when I'm a complete pro and I just want to warm up and get a more intuitive feel for perspective? To which I say, oh, that's easy. Just follow those useful links in the description. Maybe buy this book, these books, and also these books. And then start drawing cuboids in 1-point and 2-point perspective. To which they say, man, I just asked, how are you? For our 1-point exercise, we start by drawing 1 point called the vanishing point. Then we draw a flat rectangle. And then we connect the corners of the rectangle with the vanishing point. And now we draw a second rectangle between the first one and the vanishing point. And voila, our first cuboid. Let's do some more.
Learning perspective can be a daunting task. Perspective can be infinitely complex, and you could end up just reading books and watching videos because you feel that you have to understand everything before you start drawing. My advice is learning perspective like you learn a new software. Learn the very basics and start using it. And whenever you want to do something specific and you don't know how, just read up on it. No one is learning Photoshop by reading about every function in the manual before they even start using it. Most people just play around, and when they hit the wall, there is always our creepy Uncle Google here to help. So pick up those pens and start drawing cuboids in 1-point perspective.
Man, I love the third dimension. What about you, stock footage dog? So for our 2-point perspective, we draw 2 points. Vanishing point 1, vanishing point 2, which gives us the horizon line. Then we draw an edge. We connect the 2 corners from that edge with the vanishing points. We draw an edge on either side of the first edge, and then we connect the new corners with the vanishing points. Ta-da! Our cuboid is born.
Now these are pretty tricky already. What I do here is far from perfect, but what I try to do is establishing the perspective with the first box without actually drawing the vanishing points. It still follows the same rules. I'm just imagining the points, and I use the things I already drew as a guideline. First I start with random free-floating objects to warm up, then I try to be more organized, and eventually I started to imagine that there was gravity and thought about how they would connect to each other. For the last one, I chose a reference from the Minecraft world of my girlfriend. Minecraft is a great reference tool to learn perspective because it's all boxes. Now when you do these loose perspective exercises, it can very easily happen that you create some weird MC Escher-like structure that can only exist on paper but doesn't make sense as a three-dimensional object. And that's where those complex constructions and those rules in the books and videos come in handy. studying this theory will give you the tools to more carefully control the objects and their position, their size, and their relation to each other. But for a start, just draw a bunch of cuboids, let all those mistakes happen and troubleshoot them one at a time.
Your skill is extraordinary.
Now, one could argue that drawing boxes in perspective is just boring. Is there a second part to this sentence? So let's just draw some reference. Unfortunately, I used up all the reference on the Google. It's empty. I couldn't find any more. I think we have to go outside. So we are now here in Basel on the hunt for some reference. Of course, I don't expect to find any Viking reference, but maybe we find some medieval reference to practice our perspective. Of course, I brought my trusty sidekick stock footage dog. So other people use a GoPro for mountain biking or bungee jumping or shark surfing or bear fighting. Well, I use it for extreme hardcore sketching. There once was an artist who did all the grinds. He did the lines, he did the circles, he did the cuboids, the wax on, wax off. And this artist became pretty okay at drawing. Some would even say he was not too bad. But he wanted more. He wanted to get good at drawing. So what he needed was a project, a purpose, something to lean into, not just drawing cute cats and things in his mind, but drawing with a direction. So let's talk about this sketchbook a little bit. I'm still exploring the concept of having a medieval society built on top of an old society that was very advanced and had a lot of high tech. On one hand, you want to be the high tech to be distinctive from the medieval part, but on the other hand, it should not be too jarring, too awkward if they go together. So Einstein's brother once said, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. I want the technology to feel magic. So in these sketches, the technology part is more or less a placeholder. I went down the route of more abstract shapes, but my thought is that from the outside, it could look like magic, and then if you find a piece that is open, you see all the cables and everything. So you have both worlds, the very technological texture part, but also the magical glow-in-the-dark technology. So for today's drawing, I chose 3 different concepts. It's a loner family, so it is not the arch tribe that we sketched last week. They live on their own somewhere outside of this other society. They found a spot with some magic technology that they use as a site for praying and rituals. So the first one will be on a cliff, and there is some magic technology inside that cliff. The second concept is this house that is built into this hill, and the third design is just a little hut that lives next to one of these artifacts. So let's start drawing!
Gotta see things, see new places and brand new things. Gotta go places and do things, maybe to forget.
so it really helps to think about the backstory of what you draw. It gives you some structure, some focus, and it just makes the design better overall. I also already think how this world could be used in the entertainment industry. Could it be a comic book, or could it be concept art for a movie or animation? Could it be a game concept art where we would have to think about level design or adaptation to a mobile game? Could it be illustration, so like a book cover or for a trading card game? Or is it like a theme park attraction where we think about the ride layout, the vehicle design, the guest perspective and experience? For now, I tend to think it might become a comic book one day, because that's basically the only thing that I could produce myself. But that is far, far in the future, but in a galaxy near you.
So there we have it! We explored more of our world. We got to know a loner family and where they live. So now I give myself a compliment sandwich. Well, it should be a critique sandwich, so it's compliment, critique, compliment. First of all, I like some of the architecture that is going on and how it's integrated into the landscape. I'm not happy with the overall composition yet. It doesn't bring the story across. You don't really get what's going on, who is living there. Is it a hunter? Is it just a farmer? So I think I have to work on that a little more and make it more clear what the function is of this house, who's living in there, and bring in more like environmental storytelling that really gives this whole thing a character. I'm kind of fine with the structure I got here. I can imagine a painting where this is glowing in the dark and we have some glow underneath the building. I also really like this digging site they have that really brings the point across that this is not their structure. But overall, with the technology parts, I'm not really there yet. I'm just kind of slowly stepping towards it. I also think they're still a bit too close to what Viking huts used to look like. I only played around with some of the ornaments a little bit. I think I pushed too much to the grounded design, and I should go back to the more crazy design from last week and find a nice balance. Overall, it can have a bit more props, a bit more storytelling, but we get to this. I mean, it's the first start and they look still pretty okay, not too bad, but I'm happy with it. So for 1 point perspective, we start by drawing 1 point. So then we draw a rectangle. Then we draw a flat rectangle. Then we draw a flat rectangle. Rectangle, oder? Das ist ein schlechtes Beispiel.